Hello everyone, and welcome to another Western Crypto Club event. We're honored to have Ben Goertzel with us today, a leading AI researcher and the founder and CEO of SingularityNET. Like we've mentioned, this is going to be an interactive event, so just raise a hand and we'll try our best to go in order. So again, I'd like to thank Ben for attending, and with that, we'll get started, and I'll ask the first question if that's okay. So what inspired you to pursue a career in the AI and blockchain industries, and how did you first get started in these fields?
Well, I got interested in AI when I was a little kid in the early 1970s from science fiction, pretty much. And it was already clear to me then, like whatever other cool things you want to do, if you could make an AI smarter than people that wanted to be helpful, this would help you do whatever was that other thing better, right? Like the basic logic of that was already clear. I mean, back before I was born, it was clear to me when I was a little kid. What I didn't see the viability of working on AI till I was 14 or 15 when I bought a computer for the first time in like late 1970s and began to program. Like that gave a real sense for what you could do. Before that, it seemed like you're welding together supercomputers or something. And the blockchain, I sort of tried and failed to invent blockchain in 2000, 2001, when I was clear like we needed a decentralized control system for AI if you didn't want it to be ultimately taken over by big companies or government actors after it became intelligent enough. So I tried to put distributed computing and strong encryption together to create decentralized AI systems. It was very hard to do with like Java 1.1 programming language in 2001, and I backburned it. Then when Ethereum came out with smart contracts, I'm like, great, someone is like built at least the alpha version of an infrastructure for decentralized control of complex software networks. And one thing I didn't think of when I was trying to invent blockchain in 2001 was putting a decentralized money into it. I was just thinking about like decentralized control of AI systems. And obviously, Satoshi, whoever that was, thought of using decentralized control and computing networks to make decentralized money, which then provided novel economic models for driving decentralized software development forward, which was cool, and let me do stuff like found SingularityNET with an ICO in 2017 and so forth. But I really didn't get into blockchain from the money aspect. I got into it from the like how do you make a network of AI processes that has no central owner or controller, so no one can. So it's very hard for anyone to adversarially take it over.
Awesome, thanks for that answer. So Quentin, would you like to go next?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Ben, for joining, providing some insight. So my question I have for you is, what do you think is the most effective ways of educating the public about AI and its potential applications?
I mean, you guys might have a better answer to that than I do, actually. I mean, I think we've never been at a time when there's more interest in AI, right? So I mean, now anyone can not just chat GPT or stable diffusion or something, but there's so many avenues for people to play with various sorts of AI online, so people can see to some extent what AI is right now, but like what are the limitations or how it actually works is a much harder thing to get across to people. But on the other hand, like not many people know how their phone works, but they still manage to kind of figure out the strengths and weaknesses and limitations of using it to anyway. But then people don't get to drive the development of phones, right? Big companies are doing that. So I think there's an interesting issue in that you'd like the progress of AI to be driven democratically in some sense. Yet if almost nobody understands how AI works, then how can that really happen, right? And I don't have a great answer to that at this point. So maybe one of you guys will
No, that was a very
come
good
up
answer.
with
Thank you
that.
very much. That was a great answer, honestly. Thank
No,
you.
I can see, in a way, computer programming is being democratized. Like you can show GPT-4 a website and it will spit out like the JavaScript code to generate it. On the other hand, like the work we're doing trying to build the next generation of thinking machines, or like hypercycle ledgerless blockchain or something, GPT-4 isn't doing that. And you actually need to know a lot of math and computer science as well as basic programming to do that. And not many people understand it, which is means that people can't understand sort of the challenges you face in trying to make these systems ethical or fair or whatever. I mean, because these are hard problems, but they're hard in a way that most people aren't positioned to understand, right? And that's a big issue.
Yeah, thank you.
So who'd like to go next?
I'm gonna have a question. So I was looking around and I saw that you came up with the college robot test or whatever it's called. And I found that pretty cool. Can I ask you how it differs from the Turing test and what kind of different outputs it can get?
Yeah, sure. So I think the Turing test basically was formulated by Alan Turing in like the 1950s, right? So I mean, the AI field existed then; it existed before that. But I mean, clearly it was a very primitive level, right? Like at that point, there was only a few computers in the world, and they were as big as a house, right? So it was a visionary concept at the time. The idea was, if an AI could fool someone that it was a human in a chat, you should assume it's really as smart as a human. And I don't think Alan Turing would propose that now, seeing Alexa and Chat GPT and all these things, because I think now it's pretty clear that you can fool a person into thinking you're a human without having hardly any general intelligence at all. Because I think Turing wasn't thinking about a system like a GPT model, which achieves the illusion. It achieves a certain level of generality, not by being able to generalize, but by having a huge training data set, right? So what Turing was thinking that was more like, to be able to do everything a person can do, you'd have to learn to do that stuff. But in fact, what these current systems do, they learn to do 90% of what people can do just by having a huge database of people doing so many things, and then matching against that database. Like, what you need to you need to play tic-tac-toe. Okay, here's 5,000 examples of playing tic-tac-toe online. Like, you need to make a video of number blocks, singing and dancing. Sure, there's 10,000 videos of that on YouTube, right? So this approach lets you simulate most of what the human can do, just because most of what humans are asked to do, other humans have already done. So I think to work around that, you would need to evaluate the ability to learn like a human does. So I thought, like, make a test to simulate a human over a 5-year period is pretty hard. It's different, right? Because ChatGPT couldn't pass it, because if I took any random human who's not mentally retarded or whatever developmentally delayed, whatever is the latest euphemism for it, right? Like, take any mentally normal human over a 5-year period, I could probably tutor that human to be an outstanding creative inventor and like compose wild new music or prove new math theorems or something, right? And that would take some real education and development on the part of that human. But a chat GPT system can't develop in that way, right? So this is sort of sort of the idea behind what I thought was a robot college student test. I mean, to graduate from like a top technical university, you should be going from a level of not knowing that much about technical stuff to progressing step by step to the point where you're able to solve novel problems and invent new things and so forth. And of course, you'd have to make sure that the AI is like taking an exam without being able to use Wi-Fi to ask experts and cheat on every exam question from its robot brain and so forth. But it seems like the ability to learn and develop beyond what's in its training database over a number of years is something people can do, which is what drives humanity forward. And it's something that current AI systems are not doing, because they're really just recombining what's in their training database.
Thank you for that detailed answer. Michael, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. First off, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day to come talk to us. And my question is, with all these AI services rolling out in the last couple of months under the umbrella of these massive like tech companies like Microsoft and Google, what steps are you taking to try and promote more decentralized ownership and operation of these AI services as they become more mainstream? And also, I'm curious about how you would describe a potential future society 10 to 20 years down the line if this trend towards centralization of AI continues.
Well, those are two different and fairly large questions. So let me
Sorry about that.
try to give a concise. No, they're good questions, but concision is hard for me sometimes. So I think there's a shift in AI in the last few years as these large language models have developed, and it's looking more like the way things will go is you have these, big AI networks. They don't have to be neural networks. They can be neural symbolic or something, but you have these big AI networks which embody a huge amount of knowledge in them. And then you have smaller AI agents, which could be, say, plugins to Chat GPT or something else. We have these smaller, purpose-specific AI agents that are running on top of these big AI networks. But you could have that architecture without having the big AI network centrally owned or controlled, right? So I mean, you could have a large language model or some other large generative model, which is decentralized and running across a huge decentralized network, and then you can have plugins or smaller agents interoperating with each other on top of that are hosted all over the world in a decentralized network rather than hosted all on Microsoft Azure or something. And so I think what I'm pushing toward in my own corner of the decentralized AI world is, we want to make a model that's smarter than Chat GPT and kind of less full of shit by hybridizing a large language model with a logical reasoning engine that can extract knowledge from the large language model and do logical inference on it, compare current answers to past answers, compare what's in the language model with what's in structured databases and so forth. So if we can get a sort of neural symbolic large language model, then you have something that's in some ways smarter than a Chat GPT. Then roll that out decentralized across SingularityNET network, across a whole bunch of different servers around the world. Then you can have a sort of DApp ecosystem on top of that plays the same role as Chat GPT plugins, but it's decentralized. And so what has to be done to make this work, which is not easy, right? I mean, what has to be done to make this work is make something in the decentralized ecosystem that's smarter and more useful than what's been rolled out in the centralized ecosystem. And then people will flock to that, just like they flock to Chat GPT. And I think I think we can do it, not because decentralized is intrinsically smarter right out of the gate, but because I think neural symbolic systems can be smarter than purely neural systems, and we're going to roll out these neural symbolic systems in a decentralized way. Now, if that doesn't happen, if we fail at that, no one else succeeds at that, then indeed what you happen is, 90% of global industry is run by a few big tech companies that are running large centralized AI systems. I mean, for better or worse. Like, I mean, these are not insanely evil big companies, but that they're just like, stock price maximizing machines, and which don't necessarily have humanity's good at heart. So I mean, I'm fairly singularitarian, and I'm verging into the second of the two questions now. I mean, I think within the next 3 to 10 years, let's say, we're going to see a breakthrough to human level general intelligence, and within a few years after that, that human level AGI will rewrite its own source code to become a superhuman AGI, and it's not clear how much the exact pathway to human level AGI matters. Like, maybe the supermind will self-organize in the same way, almost no matter how you got there. But it's at least an interesting hypothesis that if the first AGI is more democratic and decentralized in underpinning, then it's more likely to act toward broad human benefit than if the first AGI is oriented to make some company more money or help some country win more wars, right? And so it may come out for the better either way. It's quite hard to say, but I mean, I would rather see AGI rolled out more like Linux or the internet than more than like the mobile spectrum in this industry or Windows operating system or something. I mean, if we got to make the choice, which we partly do.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how everything plays out in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Thank you for that answer. Very, very detailed answer to my question very well.
Next question. So it's in the chat. It says, I wonder if
let me click there. Yeah.
I'll read it out as well. I wonder if I am interested in AI. What should I do or prepare as a first or second undergraduate? Like, which programming language or what skills should I develop if my goal is to enter AI industry in the future? Should I keep learning after undergraduate, or I can just try some internships related with AI immediately?
Well, the AI industry, it's a good question. The AI industry is quite broad, and there's a lot of other roles in the AI industry, right? So I think that programming itself will become commoditized and largely automated. It doesn't mean understanding it is bad, of course. Like, calculators can do long division, but it's so useful to understand how long division works. Although becoming really, really fast at doing long division by hand is not useful because a calculator can do it faster. But you want to understand the principles, if nothing else, so you can tell if your calculator is broken, right? So, but I think programming itself is a useful skill, but not something to focus on, because any specific programming skill may become obsoleted before long. I can see two separate approaches to making a strong position for yourself in the AI industry. I mean, one is if you want to focus on sort of development of new AI algorithms and approaches, whether it's new machine learning or deep learning algorithms or trying to build real thinking machines or something. So that's more hardcore AI R&D. And I'd say there, you want to learn a bunch of math and electrical engineering as well as computer science. I mean, math won't go obsolete anytime soon, and people are going to need to optimize hardware for AI algorithms. There's a lot of deep knowledge there. There's also broad knowledge in sort of cognitive science, cognitive psychology, linguistics, philosophy of mind, and so forth. So there's a broad variety of areas that are worth learning to contribute to sort of core AI R&D, which I think is while it's rapidly growing, it's not going to grow as fast as AI applications, right? Because I mean, just like coding operating systems is really, really important. Computers need operating systems, but it's a small part of the jobs in the computer industry. So the other area I see needing a lot of people is people who can span AI and some other application area. Like I know in working on AI and its application to medicine and genomics and stuff, it's very hard to find people who know AI and know biology and genetics. But yet you need someone who knows both those things to progress a project applying AI in that area. And the same kind of holds in every field. Like if you want to apply AI to chip design or apply AI to early childhood education or something, in the end you're going to have a high value to have like one person who understands AI and understands early childhood education really, really, really well. And then, I mean, and the intersection of AI and blockchain is the same thing, right? I mean, you need people who deeply understand both AI and blockchain, at least a few of them. Then you can have a bunch of AI only people and blockchain only people. So that's a different direction, is like learn a lot of AI and learn a lot of something else that you like, and you can be pretty sure there's an interesting role in sort of figuring out how to apply AI in that domain and how AI will take over that industry.
Thanks for those great recommendations. That was a lot of good insights. And we got one other question in the chat. It says, would AGI ever achieve consciousness at the human level? And what would be your definition of consciousness?
Yeah, this is a vexed philosophical question, right? I mean, modern science has no settled or agreed theory of consciousness. So no, I mean, in the sense of science, no one really knows what it is. And like we know it pragmatically, like we know when someone's under anesthesia, they seem to be unconscious, but we don't even really know whether someone under anesthesia is like suffering the feeling of the surgeon's knife, but they just don't remember it after they wake up, right? Like we're pretty ignorant even of consciousness and how it works in the human brain, which means we don't have a great grounding for understanding, like if a digital computer says it's conscious, it says, no, please don't unplug me. I want to live. Like I feel so sad when I hear you want to unplug me. Like, how do we think about whether it's just saying that or whether it really feels that? I mean, the best we could do now, we could look at like, are the activity patterns in its mind similar to the activity patterns in the human brain when the human brain says or feels something like that? But that's kind of crude, right? Because it could just be an imitation. So we don't have a great scientific way to think about that. I mean, on the philosophy level, I tend toward a more sort of Buddhist view, thinking everything in the universe is consciousness, and like this coffee cup has its own coffee cup-like mode of consciousness. But then that doesn't quite solve anything, because then you have the question like, when is the AI's style of consciousness or species of consciousness have this similar flavor to a human-like species of consciousness? Like you still have a big open question. And maybe it'd be interesting to wire your brain into the AI's brain and see if you can get like Wi-Fi telepathy feel for the AI's consciousness or something, right? So I think there's a lot of unknowns here, more so than in intelligence, right? So potentially we could create an AI that seems smarter than us and could invent 100 Nobel Prize winning things every minute, and we still wouldn't have the philosophy of consciousness solved. I mean, just like in a science sense, I don't have it solved how I know you guys are conscious and are not just like avatars put on my screen to entertain me, right? Like we don't have that problem solved among humans from a science point of view.
Thanks for that. So just to respect your time, we probably have enough time for one more question.
Yeah, let's do it.
Anyone got, oh, so we got a question in the chat.
There's something.
So I'll read it out. Do you think there are ways for AI to facilitate the interaction between humans and software? For example, prompting an AI to generate a structure on AutoCAD rather than us having to adjust the setting of the software manually.
So I mean, obviously that's true. We're in the middle of a natural language revolution, right? So more and more things will be doable by just showing images or speaking or miming or something, or like in the music domain, hum a tune or just rough it out on the piano, and then the AI can fill in the orchestration or something. So I mean, I think that's clearly true. I think there will be a follow-on wave of brain-computer interfacing. You'll just think it and the AI will know it. I would say fixating on any one route of human AI interfacing is probably a mistake because things will evolve rapidly. So, I mean, now there's a bunch of focus on prompt engineering, like how do you tweak the prompt for DALL-E or Stable Diffusion to get an exact picture. I think that skill will exist another year or two. And then, I mean, you'll get systems that do all the prompt engineering for you, right? You just give it a vague idea of what you want, and some AI will work out the detailed prompt. So then humans who are good at detailed prompt engineering will not really be that relevant. So I mean, pretty much any specific kind of cheap trick like that for interfacing with AIs is great while it lasts, but will probably be obsoleted by another one. So I think we're going to see a succession of different cool ways for humans to interact with AIs. And from the point of view of a student trying to figure out what to focus on, I'd say, I mean, there's going to be short-term ways to do cool stuff and to make money or help people make a cool product just by mastering whatever is the most functional thing at that moment, even if it will vanish in a year, right? But I think for the long term, you got to master the fundamental principles of something, which is hard, right? But so I mean, like if you know basics of math and computer science, that's what it will be to generate the next AI algorithm and the next one and the next one. I mean, in art or music, if you really understand the fundamentals of design and aesthetics, I mean that, and in music, you understand fundamentals of music theory and chordal structure and timbre and everything. I mean, until humans are totally obsoleted, understanding really the fundamental principles is going to let you keep on pivoting to whatever is the next way of interacting with the AI. And one challenge I see is understanding the fundamental principles of anything takes many years of difficult study and practice, which requires a lot of focus, which is hard to come by as the world throws random new things at you like every 2 weeks.
Thank you for that. And then maybe just one other question that kind of came up in my mind while you're speaking. As the value of human labor starts to exponentially decrease and the value of AI labor starts to increase, what do you think that's going to do to money itself?
Um, I mean, post singularity, money as it exists now just won't be around, right? So I mean, like if you look at Ian Banks' culture novels, one of the things in that taken for granted in those science fiction novels is reliance on money is one sign of a very primitive civilization, right? I mean, it's a civilization that hasn't yet gotten AI and manufacturing working to the point that basic, desirable things in life are abundant, right? Just like you'd say there's a problem if you're charging 5 cents to get water from a water fountain outside. We just assume there's enough drinking water around, everyone can drink it, and we don't agonize too much about someone connecting a hose to the drinking fountain to fill up their swimming pool or something, right? So I mean I think post singularity it will be like that. Not to say that at some level there won't be contention over resources. Like if you want to use all the molecules in Jupiter to make a supercomputer, there may be some process for that, right? But for what human level minds need in everyday life in the domain of abundance, money won't play a role. That said, there's going to be a transitional period to get there in which money will play a complex and difficult role. And probably all of us in this call are very fortunate, because I think that as human labor is obsoleted, my guess is the developed world will just get some form of universal basic income before you get to a singularity. Like I don't think US and Canada and so forth are going to let it happen that half the people are homeless in the street. I think in some way or another, the government will just give money away. On the other hand, no one's going to give money away to the average person in Chad or the Central African Republic, because those countries don't have enough money, or Afghanistan, wherever, right? And the developed world seems to have very limited appetite to help random people in the developing world. So I think you have potentially very troublesome situation where percent of the world for a number of years is living for free off the fruits of AI and robots, and the rest of the world has to go back to subsistence farming. And this is clearly, you could plot a lot of geopolitical thriller novels based on a premise like this, right? There's potential for a lot of dystopic transitional periods, even if the end game is abundance for everyone. So then one thing you think about for those of us in a fortunate position, like all of us basically are, is how could we use our expertise and knowledge to smooth this transition out? I mean, the dimensions of which are kind of clear, right? Because think about, like, what if GPT-7 or OpenCog 3 or something really can do 80% of jobs, right? Then go through every country in the world. What's the likely outcome there? And what could we do to help it be less destructive in all these places? And you'll find some very difficult problems if you go through that thought process.
Yeah, thank you for that. I want to thank you again for coming today. It's been very educational and informative. So thanks again. We're very honored to have you.
Yeah, thanks for all the good questions. And I mean, if any of y'all want to get directly involved with what my own teams are doing at some point, so there's a SingularityNET.io is a website, which is sort of the portal to various things we're doing. But we've got email lists and Telegram groups and Twitter and whatnot. There's lots of ways to reach out of it. And you also have my email address. So I mean, as you progress through your careers, hopefully some of you will want to plunge into using decentralized AI to save the world. I mean, that's it's one of the more important and interesting things to be doing.
Yeah, it is very important. I think one of the underlying issues that doesn't get spoken enough about. So yeah, thanks again, Ben. Really appreciate this.
All right, thanks a lot. Bye-bye, everyone.